Good evening, everybody. A pleasure to come your way once again for the feed on Kwesa TV with me, Muftau Nabila Abdullah. Tonight, we are talking about a normalization committee that replaced the now defunct executive committee of the Ghana Football Association on September 13, 2018. They've been in office for nearly a year now. How would you rate their performance? They finally come out with a document and a roadmap that will lead to elections of new executives to head the Ghana Football Association. On September 5, there's going to be a Congress meeting that was assembled by the Normalization Committee. Tonight, we are asking the question, the draft statutes the Normalization Committee is sent out to the clubs. Should the clubs accept it and move on to elections and go for an extraordinary Congress and review some of the statutes given to them by the Normalization Committee, or they should put up questions surrounding some of the articles put before them by the Normalization Committee? There are some specific articles that I am personally interested in, especially Articles 17, 24, 33, 27, 40, 39, and 41. In these statutes, they are saying that they've not given specific timeline or specific requirements for one to become a president of the Ghana Football Association. In the former statutes or in the old statutes or the current statutes of the Ghana Football Association, depending on how you choose to call it, it is clearly spelled out that you must be affiliated to a member of the Ghana Football Association for at least 2 years before you can occupy the position of becoming president of the Ghana Football Association. Unfortunately, the Normalization Committee have expunged that in that draft statutes that have been submitted to these clubs, and most of the clubs are going through it. The Division 1 clubs held a meeting in Accra last week, and there was also a meeting by stakeholders in Accra earlier this week, before a meeting yesterday by the Ghana League Clubs Association. After all these 3 meetings, a 7-member committee have been put in place to review the draft statutes presented to them, to reconcile them with the old statutes or the current statutes governing the Ghana Football Association. Today in the studio for us to do the discussion is Sheikh Tawfiq Abdul Kadir Sienu. How was it called there? Okay, Tawfiq Abdul Kadir Sienu. I've taken out the Sheikh, please. And we'll also be joined on the phone by former CEO of Aduana Stars, Mr. Albert Ekome. But before I speak to Albert Ekome, who is currently on the phone with us, Tawfiq, first of all, what do you make of the 3 meetings held by Division 1 clubs, the stakeholders, and Ghalca?
Well, I think that it's a clear indication of the fact that they lack leadership who to put them together which direction they should go. So Division 1 clubs think that statutes have been tabled. So let's meet and discuss our interest and go and fight for our interest. Yes. Premier League clubs met. They also discussed their interest. Yes. Let's also go and meet, the committee at Congress, and then we also fight for our interest. So it was a clear indication of the fact that they didn't have, a mother body or
a leader
to put them together to come up with at least a concerted effort and an agenda or an idea to be given to the Normalization Committee in the way forward of Ghana football. So there was a clear indication of disunity amongst all the, branches, stakeholders of football that we have in the country. Now,
they've set up a 7-member committee. Yesterday, we were made to understand that 2 of them resigned for personal reasons, Kofi Manu and Randy Abbey. The remaining 7 people who are going to review the statutes of the Normalization Committee, the draft statutes, and reconcile them with the old statutes or the current statutes governing the Ghana Football Association. Those members, what do you make of them?
Well, I think that in terms of competence, I trust them to be able to do the job that has been given them. If you look at Aminu Shado, we all know what Aminu Shado has been able to do with Dreams FC as the administrative manager. He's competent enough, and it appears that in almost all the subcommittees from Ghalca time to this time, Aminu Shado is part. It tells you the confidence that the people have in him. You have somebody like Lawyer Ntofianko being part of the team is a clear indication of the fact that
he actually drafted the current statutes with the former president of the FA.
And it tells you a lot. It tells you how football people really want their game back. You have somebody like Robert Duncan, who is the RFA rep. You have Jones Abu Alasan, another think tank when it comes to football regulations and whatever in the country. So I think that when you look at the composition of the body, Randy Abbey, we all know, I would want to restrict myself to the 8-member committee that was appointed at the stakeholders meeting. I choose to call it Congressmen Stakeholders Meeting. You know why I call it that way?
Unless you tell me.
If you look at the composition of that particular, meeting that was held on Tuesday, it's an embodiment of all the people who vote at Congress.
Exactly.
It's an embodiment. You had 41 out of the 48 Premier League clubs representing.
Yes.
You had 15 out of the 16 Premier League clubs representing.
Yeah.
You had constituent bodies.
Yes.
You had security services. You had women football. So you had RFEs. So it was a clear indication of the fact that we are ready. Yeah. And when they saw Mr. Uwanyameche and then JY appear in the front, they realized that, look, our big men are out. They needed to come together to push an agenda, get our football back. So let's all, cooperate and support them to do what they want us to do. And so it was clear from the meeting on Tuesday that the football people are ready. It's even clearer when you see Kofi Manu serving on the same committee with Ntofianko. We all know, if you have been in the football industry for a very long time, you know these gentlemen have had a lot of issues.
There are no knowledge within the football sector and the differences that exist between them.
At the moment, for the two of them to agree to come together to fight a common cause, Techi Ahen, very vocal, he's been on one side with Kofi Manu on the other side. Yes. But to see Techi Ahen, Ntofianko, Kofi Manu, all in the same basket or in the same canoe, trying to paddle to their destination, it tells you clearly that the people are now serious and they want their football back.
If you have read the draft statutes and if you are to ask the clubs to make some recommendations, what would they be?
Well, a lot. I was looking at the statutes, and even when you look at Article 3, which talks about the executive board, which they are proposing to replace the executive committee, I think it's in direct contradiction with the FIFA statutes, the FIFA standard statutes. Because if you look at the FIFA standard statutes, these are the organizations, that is the structure that the FIFA has given to member associations. You have Congress, you have executive committee, you have president, emergency committee, standing committees, and then other bodies, that is the General Secretariat and the judicial bodies. Yes. This is the Article 14F of the FIFA statutes. But if you look at what they are proposing now, it's in direct contradiction.
Okay.
And
so which area contradicts?
If you look at the executive board that they are proposing, and for a chairman to, to lead that executive board, it's in direct contradiction with the FIFA statutes, because FIFA says Congress, then you come to president. Yes. But they are rather proposing a different body, which does not move in tandem with what FIFA has stipulated.
But that's just a change of name, right?
No, but
if you are rebranding everything.
Then they should change the name of the association.
And that was something we all got.
But why did they decide to, revert to the former name Ghana Football Association when we heard that they had proposed
Association of
Ghana Football? Yeah. Why did they decide to go back to the formal association?
It was purely because they tested the waters and realized that the waters were too deep.
In the same way, it's an indication of the fact that every organization has a structure. Yes. And these are the standard structures of the organization. Yes. And look, we cannot run our football as an island. Yes. We run it in tandem with that of FIFA. And Ghana alone does not play football. We play football with member associations.
Yes.
So FIFA, knowing all these things and knowing how difficult it will be when member associations are allowed to set up their own rules and regulations to govern their game, how difficult it will be, they came out with what we call the standard statutes.
Yes.
So even in the mandate of the normalization committee, they were told that the statutes that they are to review
yes.
must be in tandem or in compliance with the FIFA standard statutes.
Yes.
So you cannot come up with a statute that is
alien
to what FIFA has already.
But interestingly, if you go through the statutes of the normalization committee and the current statutes of FIFA that were released on June 6 and approved on August 5, you realize that they've added Article 3, which talks about human rights. They've added Article 4, which talks about, just a moment, Article 3 talks about human rights, right? And then if you come to Article 4 is talking about non-discrimination and equality. But if you read the current statutes of FIFA, it matches directly with it. But now, I wanted to be very specific on some of the articles. If you go to Article 17, Article 17 talks about powers that will be handed to the executive board or the board of directors to provisionally suspend a member until such a time that they will convene Congress, be it ordinary or extraordinary, to expel the individual. Meanwhile, in the earlier statutes or the current statutes, it says that it is only Congress that has the power to expel an individual or a member.
If you look at the structure and the content of the draft statutes of the normalization committee,
yes,
the impression that you get is that they are trying to disenfranchise some people. That is it.
Yeah.
If even you look at Article 25
okay,
of the draft statutes, which talks about Congress,
yes,
and you juxtapose it to Article 24
yes,
of the existing statutes
of the Ghana,
you come to realize that that article talks about the composition of Congress and explaining why we have 123 people at Congress voting.
Yeah.
The current draft statutes
doesn't.
Is saying that we should have 94 people at Congress, yes, to vote. So directly, certain congressmen will have to lose their power of determining who becomes the next
leadership of the FA. Exactly.
Or even getting the power to also, take part in the governance of football in the country.
Yes.
Now, if you look at specifically Division 1 clubs,
yes,
we have 48 Division 1 clubs nationwide.
Yes.
But then the number has been slashed to 24.
Yes.
The question is that which Division 1 club is losing its power to which Division 1 club? Because Division 1 clubs, by virtue of the statutes of the Ghana Football Association, the general regulations,
yes,
democratically have their own powers as individuals.
Yes.
So if, for instance, BYF Academy in Bekwai, after struggling through Division 3 and Division 2 to come to Division 1, and now have the power to also have a say in the governance of Ghana football, because BYF is from Bekwai, they should lose their, Congress power and give it to maybe Unistar Academy because they are at Kaswa.
But Tafik, this isn't the doing of the normalization committee, because FIFA clearly spells out to members that you shouldn't have more than 100 electoral college. So definitely some people will have to lose.
No, I am of the opinion that if people are to lose their voting powers, yes, there is a way of doing it.
Yes.
If you look at Division 1 clubs, it is very, very, very hard to be able to determine who should go and who should drop.
Not to forget there are 3 different zones.
So
if you are traveling, it is too far for you, please you stay back.
No. It's not fair. You see, we are dealing with a constitution or regulations that must ensure fairness. And remember, in the earlier, articles, yes, you spoke about non-discrimination, yes, and all those things. Yes. So if you are not discriminating against a club from Bolga, then you have to allow us to also take part. Even if it will take us 10 years to come to Congress, we will come. So far as we are part of Congress, we will come and then do what is supposed to be done.
Thank you very much. On that note, let's go for a break and come back and talk more on what clubs should do or what they should decide when they go to Congress on September 5 to meet the normalization committee. We'll be back in the GFA to talk more here on the feed. You're welcome back from the break. This is the feed on Kwesa TV with me, Muftau Nabila Ablai. Tonight, we are talking about the Normalization Committee decision to invite clubs for Congress on September 5. And they presented a draft statute to all clubs that will be assembling on September 5 for the meeting. And that we are asking the question, whether the clubs should agree with the draft statute sent to them so that they'll go to elect their new leadership of the Ghana Football Association, or they should raise some concerns about the draft statutes. And in the studio doing the discussion with me is editor of Football Made in Ghana, Sheikh Taufik Abdul Kadri Sieno. Taufik, just before we went for the break, you were making an interesting comment that even if it would take 10 years for you to arrive today, also decide on the leadership of the Ghana Football Association. As a democratic institution, you should be allowed to exercise that right.
Not just the leadership, it's governance. And Muftau, let's even relate it to the governance structure that we have in this country. We now have 16 regions. And out of the 16 regions, each region, per the Constitution of Ghana, must have what you call a regional minister.
Yes.
Who is a representation of the president or the government there.
Yes.
So if, for instance, I am Region A as one of the newly created regions, and I even have two houses in my region, just 2 houses. So far as it is a region, I'm part of the executives. So far as it's a region, which has been constitutionally accepted as a region, I am part of the executives. So far as I qualify as a Division 1 club or a Premier League club or as a member of Congress, distance, race, religion, whatever, age, gender should not be a hindrance to me taking part in the governance of football in the country. So, per the new statutes that they have drafted,
yes.
If you look at the 94 congressmen that they want,
yeah.
and the specifications, for Division 1 clubs, it is highly or virtually impossible.
What about RFAs that have been given 1 slot?
I'm coming. For the RFAs, in trying to look for a reduction in the number,
yeah.
I think that if you already look at the number of representation by the RFAs, which is 3,
yes.
When it is reduced, I understand. But it should not be reduced less than 2. They already have 3.
Yes.
If it should be reduced to 2, it's understandable. Even the 2, people will argue. But I think that, and their argument will be valid because if you look at the RFAs, their job description is very vast. I was born in the Ashanti region. I grew up there. I played coast football there. I managed football there before going into mainstream journalism. Within Ashanti region alone, and when you take Kumasi, Obuasi, and Bekwai, you have more than 100 coast clubs.
Some actually even say they have about 440 something.
You have more than 100 coast clubs, Kumasi, Obuasi, and Bekwai alone. You have not spoken about Konongo, which is part. You have not spoken about Ejiso, Offenso, and all those places. And all these places are under the RFAs. Forget about the coast clubs. Come to 3rd division. Come to 2nd division. You understand? Yeah. So you realize that it is very vast. And within the region, you have districts. And these districts are also headed by football people. District Football Association chairman.
Tafik, you're making these draft statutes look like something that should have been done in the first place.
No, it's not about that. Perhaps they did not consider how the governance of football is very wide.
Yes.
They probably didn't take into consideration that. But if indeed they took into consideration that, you realize that, and I will always use the Ashanti region, because it appears it's one of the regions with, I have not even spoken about Bono Ahafo, which happens to be the hub of second division, third division, first division, and coast football. I've not even spoken about that place. So at the end of the day, you come to realize that if Ashanti region has, say, 10 districts in the region, each district has a football association chairman. For instance, if you take Amansie East District, that is Bekwai, where I was born. It's now Amansie East Municipal. We have Bekwai, we have Jakobu, we have a lot of towns within. So in terms of election, all these bodies come together to produce the three that will be representing the region. So it means that the three will be coming to the national to represent the region are being, are representing about 400 clubs. That is from second division, third division, coast football, and women football. Safik,
enough of that. Now let's talk about the contentious one. And I think due to time, we're going to stay on there. The Normalization Committee have expunged one of the key statutes governing Ghana football. Before you can head the Ghana Football Association and be part of the executive committee, you must be an active member of the Ghana FA for at least 2 years. That has been expunged. How controversial is this? It means that anyone, anywhere can just walk in, contest, and get elected.
It will not work.
Why will it not work?
It will not work, and when they go to Congress, the clubs will kick against it and it will be changed. You know why? There are so many people. In Accra alone, we have a population of about 2 million people. Is that not it?
Yes.
Why didn't you just invite anybody to come and do the discussion with you but me? First, the qualification is that I'm a journalist.
Yes.
Second,
you're a club official.
I'm into sports, not just journalism. I'm into sports. You understand?
Yes.
Thirdly, my field is football. So that qualifies me to come and sit here and discuss this particular issue. So the fact that somebody is a journalist doesn't mean that any journalist can discuss
any issue.
When you relate this to the Football Association issue, it gives a clear direction. I am, let's say, I am into timber marketing.
Yes.
I'm into timber. I don't do football. I don't have a club. I don't even know how referees become referees.
But do I have the administrative knowledge?
I'm coming. I'll get there. The administrative knowledge alone may not qualify you to become the head of the association per the regulations of the bigger body, which is FIFA.
FIFA, in Article 27, clearly spells it out that you must be active member of FIFA for 2 years in the last 5 years.
You know why in 2005, FIFA applauded the statutes and regulations of the Ghana Football Association as one of the best in the world?
Yes.
Because when Lawyer Eyiah and Kwesi and the other people were drafting it, they made sure that they tallied it with that of FIFA. And made
Do this for me in 1 minute. We have to wrap up.
And made sure they moved in tandem, in agreement, in compliance. So at the end of the day, FIFA saw it and said, wow, this is an excellent job that you people have done. And they saluted it. So today, if we are trying to change it, we will change it perhaps with the wording. With the wording, we may change it. But with the meanings and what it is meant to apply, we cannot change it because already the bigger body, which is FIFA, is having the document there and they will relate it to what we have today.
But FIFA already went through the draft statutes before they present it to Congress.
Why didn't FIFA straight away say that, okay, it's an excellent statute, we have accepted it, go and use it?
But FIFA knows that they cannot accept any document to govern an institution.
And FIFA knows that when it goes to Congress congressmen will draw their attention that this particular provision that you have taken off, you have to add it.
Tawfiq, let's not forget, FIFA already knocked back 2 of the statutes the Normalization Committee presented. This is the 3rd one they said go and present to Congress. So if the 3rd one they present, it means that FIFA have gone through and they feel like, this is enough.
In our local parlance, we say, why are they pa? It means that the 3rd one they took to FIFA, they did really very well. And FIFA said, okay, we've seen the statutes. We cannot accept it as a document that will rule your game.
Yes.
Take it to the people themselves. And this is a clear indication. It's a clear indication that it's a message that FIFA is sending to the Normalization Committee. Take it to Congress. Let them digress and discuss it. And if it suits them, let them adapt it. You understand? So it tells you that if you are not within that particular system, you cannot even say that it is good or it is bad. So that tells you even the presidential, regulation or requirement that they have expunged from it, they will have to place it back because the people that they
even
are going
FIFA
to...
themselves. Now, but
they are football people.
Tawfiq, the last and final conversation, let's touch on before we leave the studio. If you were to advise the clubs and the Normalization Committee, which areas in the draft statute should be taken out and what should be added?
I think I have already indicated, if you look at, even there's Article 2, what talks about membership. There's a controversy there. There's a controversy.
Article 12, rather, that talks about membership.
There's a controversy, and they perhaps need to work on it. I have spoken about the executive board, which I think that does not relate with FIFA's Article 14F. So they will have to structure it in order to comply with that particular regulations of FIFA. And then I've also spoken about the Congress, the composition of Congress, and how they want to reduce it. I think that if the people really explain to them how the governance structure works, they may appreciate and understand that even the regions, maybe they will have to give them 5.
On that note of even the regions, they have to give them 5. We'll have to wrap the show here. This has been The Feed with me, Mufta Abdullahi. Thanks very much for your company. I appreciate your time here with us within the week. We'll be back again next week. And on September 5, should they go to Congress and come back, we might be here again to discuss this very same issue. Why certain things were accepted or rejected by the clubs. Thanks very much for your time.